This is a story about how dreams to travel go so often unfulfilled or postponed until after retirement, and how this is not that story. It's so recognizable. Eager to join the grown-up world, get your career going. You fight to get a job as soon as you get out of college, when a decade or more later, you realize that you've built a life and a career that you cannot easily walk away from. And then it hits. I could easily keep doing this for the rest of my life. If I don't make a drastic move right now, I'm going to retire from this company or a similar one, and then be too old to enjoy myself, my life, the world, and only if I've made the right financial choices every step of the way, I could retire with enough security to be able to afford all the things I've told myself I was too busy making a career to enjoy for the past 40 years. That thought struck me hard through my bones one day, like landing from a jump without bending your knees. I could have cried thinking of that trajectory. I wanted so much more for my life, I would think. So, I'm here, in beautiful Braga, Portugal, getting my PhD and teaching English to the non-native speakers here. This is my classroom for this semester. In just 20 minutes, this room will be full of learning. I think this is where our stories probably divide. I assume that most of you are in your early to mid-20s and are teaching to live and explore the world, and maybe on a gap year between high school and college. I'm a high fives distance away from my 40s, and I'm teaching to help me survive so I can continue living my dream. Though I know we all can relate that this is definitely the furthest we've ever been from home. I've never even moved to a different state away from my friends and family until now. If I wasn't a graduate of the International TEFL Academy and been supported by their team every step of the way, I would not be able to be here. Living in Portugal is relatively inexpensive, and of that, Braga is extremely affordable. But I still have to live very simply so I can afford rent, a phone, food, some travel every once in a while, because my research takes up most of my time, and I'm not available to teach as many classes as my school wants me to. But I do find time to travel, mostly within the country, which is okay since I live in an extremely beautiful country. I spent the first summer I was here backpacking through the western coast of Portugal in a region called Alentejo. I saw some of the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen in my life, and virtually empty since that area of the country isn't on the tourism list of places to go while in Portugal. Actually, Portugal itself might not even make that list for countries to visit while in Europe. I've hiked mountains, walked through villages, virtually untouched by time and Western technology for the past 100 years, swam in waterfalls, toured castles, experienced traditional music and customs, and met some of the most interesting and amazing human beings I've ever had the pleasure of sharing time with. When I said I was moving here, people asked me where Portugal is. Is it inside of Spain? Do they speak Spanish? And you know something? Retrospectively, I'm pretty happy about that. Portugal is still so untouched. And it's somewhat evident that tourism is not the main priority of the country. Some bus lines are never on time, if ever showing up at all. There are regular union strikes for the train lines, and getting anywhere by public transportation around here will take at least twice or 3 times longer than if you own a car. Unless you fly, of course. But this country has so much to offer the world. Apparently, it's the world's staple for the production of cork, Who knew? The wine here is incredible. Port wine comes from my favorite city, Oporto. Fresh olive oil, hot bread, strong coffee, affordable living, and cheap wine are all necessities to the Portuguese. What's wrong with that? I've always said that even if I was independently wealthy, I would still teach. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. Watching students connect dots, build on what they already know, is one of the greatest joys I have in my life. And despite the University of Coimbra in the middle of Portugal being one of the oldest universities in the world, public education here is a relatively new concept. Most of my students have parents that didn't finish or even go to high school. So the fact that they can receive an education is a gift to them. And it's now, thankfully, a countrywide norm to attend higher education after high school. In the first class, and then again during conferences, I ask them what their reason for learning English is. And their answers are what you'd expect, but to hear it from them makes me intensely grateful and somehow extremely humbled. To travel the world, I'll need it for my future career. I want to live in an English-speaking country one day. English is the universal language, so I just think it's important to know. We take it for granted that this is our first language, but for them, it's their ticket for freedom. Their ticket to expand their lives, to travel the world, to get a better job and a better life. This time has taught me so much from this culture. I move more slowly. I savor what I have and not what I want. Loyal friendship. Be kind. Be welcoming to strangers. Behave with the greater good of your fellow countrymen in mind. Oh, and always live close to the beach.